Counselors, are you still with us?
Yep, I'm still here.
Still here.
Good evening, South Windsor, and welcome to the South Windsor Town Council regular meeting of Monday, July 18th. I call the meeting to order at what time? Thank you, 7:01. We have a lot of feedback. I take it. I'm hearing. Are you hearing it, Jamie? Is that what is that coming across on the TV that way? Maybe we can turn the volume down on that. I don't know. Okay, so we'd like to call the meeting to order. Now, can we have a pledge allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag.
Counselor Evans?
Here.
Counselor Kowalski?
Here.
Counselor Lopez? Counselor Paterna?
Here.
Mayor Pendleton? Deputy Mayor King?
Here.
Counselor Kozakowski? Counselor Lydecker? And Counselor Gamble?
Here.
I didn't even turn it on. Okay, thank you. Mayor's remarks this evening will be, I'd like to wish everyone a great summer. Have a wonderful vacation. This is our last meeting before our summer break. The council gets the month of August off, so everyone please stay safe and happy and healthy out there and enjoy the time with your families. I'd also like to read a letter that was sent to the town council from the South Windsor class of 2022 Operation Graduation. Dear South Windsor Town Council members, thank you for your generous donation to South Windsor Operation Graduation. Your generosity helped to provide a safe, fun, and memorable night for our graduating seniors. Please find the enclosed decal to show our appreciation for your support. We look forward to working with you again. Warm regards, Kathy LaRosa and Lisa Lovett. They are the chairs of the South Windsor Operation Graduation. So this is a copy of the logo that they had right here. If everyone can see that. So that's wonderful. Thank you. The other thing that I'd like to mention this evening, if I could take a minute. I'd like to mention our first responders this evening. The town of South Windsor first responders, our police department and our fire department have been dealing with some, difficult situations within our community, outside of our community on the highways with the fire department. And I'd just like to say that learning and hearing and knowing about what they did in their professions to supply rescue and everything else that they did have done an exceptional job for both departments. And I just want to take a second for all of us to remember our first responders as we come into the summer season and throughout the year, to be grateful and thankful to them. Sometimes in our volunteer fire department is a volunteer fire department, and our police officers and maybe putting their lives on the line, we don't know, but let's stop and think about them for a second and be grateful and thankful for the wonderful people that we have within our community. And now moving on, I have let's see, what time is it? After the roll call, here we go on the mayor's remarks. I have a proclamation to read in observance of the National Pollinators Week. And I'd like to go up to the podium if I could with Mr. Caldwell. Is it now? switch sides because I'm shorter. Thank you. It's
I don't
easier.
normally hear that.
I know, sorry. Okay, so Mr. Caldwell, Mr. John Caldwell is the, I want to get this correctly, supervisor? No, the superintendent, that's right, the superintendent of our Parks Department, which falls under our Park and Recs Department. And so this evening, and earlier this year, we worked with the Parks Department to recognize the monarch butterflies here in South Windsor, and the Pollinators Week came up. And it's very important because the monarch butterflies and the bees all use this plant called milkweed. And that is food for the monarch butterflies. That's where they lay their eggs, they generate babies, new babies, but that's their food to get them back down in their migration to Mexico. So Mr. Caldwell's not fond of weeds, we know this. However, monarch butterflies, we're making a special exception.
Make an exception.
And he's sporting his fancy monarch butterfly tie. So the Town of South Windsor proclamation, whereas the monarch butterfly is an iconic North American species who multi-generational migration and metamorphosis from caterpillar to butterfly has captured the imaginations of millions of Americans. And the Town of South Windsor recognizes that human health ultimately depends on well-functioning ecosystems in biodiverse regions which support food production, healthy soil and air quality, fostering healthy connections between wildlife and humans. And whereas both eastern and western monarch butterfly populations have seen significant declines with less than 1% of western monarch butterflies remaining, while the eastern population has fallen as much as 90% since the mid-1990s. Whereas cities, towns, and countries across the United States have a critical role in helping save the monarch butterfly, and in recognition, the Town of South Windsor is striving to become a global leader and advocate. Therefore, on May 2nd, 2022, Mayor Elizabeth E. Pendleton, myself, signed the National Wildlife Federation Mayor's Monarch Pledge and has officially committed to taking meaningful action to protect monarch butterfly populations. And whereas the Town of South Windsor has committed to engaging with Park and Rec staff to identify opportunities to maintain lawn mowing programs, community art projects, enhancing and promoting monarch and pollinator-friendly demonstration gardens at prominent community locations, and engaging with the community garden program to urge the planting of native milkweeds and nectar-producing plants. Now therefore, I, Elizabeth E. Pendleton, Mayor of the Town of South Windsor, Connecticut, acting on behalf of the Town Council and the residents of South Windsor, do hereby proclaim May 2nd, 2022 as the Mayor's Monarch Pledge Day. In witness whereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal of the Town of South Windsor to be affixed on the second day of May 2022, signed by myself on behalf of Deputy Mayor Stephen King Jr., Town Councilors Erica Evans, Jamie Gamble, Philip Kaboski, Mayor Kozakowski, Cesar Lopez, Andrew Paterna, and Karen Lightdecker. And there you go, Mr. Caldwell. You can hang it on the wall with your tie. Thank you.
I will.
And let's get those that milkweed up. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. And now we have item number 5, which is the adoption of the agenda. Councilor Cesar Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Is there any addition? Second, there's a second? Yeah. Is there any deletions, discussions, additions, corrections on any of the minutes? I'm sorry, the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda? Deputy Mayor King, we need to move the executive session up behind the public input.
So moved, Madam Mayor. Okay. Executive session is being moved to where?
Up behind public input.
Okay, so Madam Mayor, so moved that we move the executive session before public input, which is number 7, correct?
After number 7.
After number 7, my apologies.
And if you could read that, that'd be great.
Love it. Executive session to discuss a personnel issue, the agreement between the town of South Windsor and local 1303-466 of Council 4, AFS CME, AFL-CIO, pollution control employees. So if we can move the executive session to after number 7, the public input for items on the agenda.
Okay. So, and now there's a motion to put that in, to move that up into our agenda. And there was already a second on the table. Is there any other discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Item number 6 is communications and reports from the town manager. Mr. Maniscalco, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'm very pleased to inform the Town Council that the Main Street Bridge is expected to be completed sometime in the beginning of August. While the planning and design of this project took some time, the construction and installation has gone fairly smooth. We're expecting to hold some type of a ceremony to formally open the bridge with our state delegation and Town Council sometime toward the end of August. And just so everybody's aware, this project was funded in part by the state of Connecticut as well as with local funds. Moving on, the Clark Street sewer lining, the Water Pollution Control Authority has been busy conducting work on Clark Street this last week, lining the sewer lines, and I saw today they're actually preparing to start work again shortly. This is the first location of many throughout the town where relining activities are going to be occurring. For those of you who are not aware, what they end up doing is putting a chemical into the sewer line after they do a bypass, and then they actually have to heat it and cure it in place for quite a bit of time. So that's the reason why they have to actually shut down a whole lane for a significant period of time. It looks like there's a bunch of people standing around, but what they're doing is monitoring the temperatures as that goes on. So this work is going to extend the lifespan of the sewer lines in town, saving taxpayers money in the long term. This project's funded through ARPA funds that the town has received. In terms of our Nevers Park outdoor fitness area, we're expecting the outdoor fitness equipment to be delivered any time now with the intent of installation in the late summer to early fall as work schedules will allow. This will be a great rehabilitation to the Nevers Park and will provide a renewed opportunity for residents to get outside and stay physically fit. This project is being funded through a joint effort with the Max Challenge and as well as ARPA funds. Also, Buckland Road repaving is scheduled to begin in early August. I think we're probably going to see some work signs go up very soon in the next couple weeks. I saw some drafts actually going to printing. Work is going to occur both at night and during the day. Residents should plan for delays in the area and schedule accordingly. Thankfully, the repaving of Buckland Road should only take about a month and a half to complete. And this project is being funded through bond funds approved at referendum by the South Windsor residents. Lastly, I wanted to draw the council's attention to our ARPA funding. We were expecting to receive ARPA funds from the federal and state government in 2 payments. We received the first payment last year and we're expecting the second one in May. Unfortunately, we've not received the second payment for the funds at this time. We've been in touch with the state and they're claiming that they have not received the funding from the federal government yet. We're closely watching and working on this situation to ensure that we do not overextend the town's financial commitment to projects while trying to keep projects on track. We've also been in contact with our federal legislators to see if we could try to shake some of those funds that have been promised to the town loose. And that is all I have to report at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Does anyone have any questions for the town manager? Councilor Paterno?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Maniscalco, can you tell me how much Max Challenge actually donated to that fitness project?
I don't know the total number off the top of my head. I'll have to get that for you.
Okay.
But I know that they did some type of fundraiser in association with it.
The only reason I ask is because I want to give them kudos for the amount of money they've donated to this town over the last 5 to 6 years between schoolyard gardens and fitness equipment, Healthy South Windsor, and they deserve a huge thank you for their efforts in their day of giving. So thank you to Max Challenge. Thanks.
Absolutely. Councilor Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Mr. Maniscalco. Can you just give a brief understanding to me about what ARPA funds are supposed to be used for?
Sure. So the brief understanding would be a guidance that came from the Treasury that's about a ream thick. So it's a little complicated, but overall, the biggest way to look at it is the Treasury outlined a number of things to use it for. First and foremost, it was sewer rehabilitation projects, projects that are helping communities mitigate COVID impacts, and then fiber technology projects. I'm trying to think if there was one other category.
That's an interesting mix of projects. Was there an overall theme to the ARPA? Like sewers and COVID don't seem to really go together.
So I think the connection between sewers and COVID is that a lot of times COVID was found most prevalently within our wastewater systems. So I think the idea is that if your wastewater system is up to par and up to snuff and working appropriately, then it'll mitigate the potentials of transmission of COVID. So I believe that was the connection that they had.
Okay. And so you said the state hasn't gotten their funds from the federal government. How much are we
So we were promised about $7 million from the federal government. We got our first half of that 7. We haven't received the second half. We were expecting it in May. I've heard little dribbles and drabbles from other communities that they did get their second payment, so we're trying to figure out where ours is and why ours is taking a little bit longer. So we'll see where that goes.
Thank you.
Any other questions from counselors for Mr. Maniscalco? Not hearing any. Mr. Maniscalco, since Mr. Caldwell is here, I was wondering if he could approach the lectern and address where we are in the process of the pickleball. If you wouldn't mind, could he do that, sir?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm sure he's the guy to answer it.
Good evening, everyone.
Move it back up for yourself.
I spoke to Hinding Tennis yesterday, and they've mobilized everything. Today is at Rye Street Park. They're going to start some final grading over there. They have to dig around the outside of the court because the outside of the concrete slab has to be thicker than the rest of it. We do have all the cables ordered, luckily, and they all came in. There was a supply chain issue with that was holding us up for a little while, but they are hoping to have everything graded off, ready, framed out, and pour the concrete early next week for the post-tension. They'll also set the sleeves for all the nets, and then there'll be fencing, painting, and I don't have a timeline on that yet, but they should be done by the end of next week with the pour for the slab itself.
And when do you expect the completion of the pickleball? Do you have any idea how long that might take?
I do not have that at this time. We do have a pre-construction meeting tomorrow. I'll have a follow-up on you. I can get it to Molly, and Molly can get it to whoever would like it. We can
If you just send an email to myself, I'll get it out to the council.
All right, thank you. And I will find out about, because we still have fencing, the line painting, and some other things that have to be done, some sidewalk and parking lot work that we've done most of already. But hopefully after tomorrow morning, we'll have a better idea where we're going to go and how long everything should take.
And then the deck hockey is part of this or not part of this? This is something different?
No,
They're
it is
two
not,
different-
because instead of, we currently have the 2 tennis courts that we have, and I'm going to use them for example, are tennis courts at TER, pickleball/tennis courts. I think a good analogy is that our tennis courts are 40 plus years old, and if you had they're made out of the same material a road is made out of. Mm-hmm. If you have a road that's that old, it's usually been redone and repaved. We haven't done that. We keep continually trying to fix cracks, and you just can't do it. It doesn't work well. That nothing sticks to the blacktop properly. It's kind of like a sheetrock compound tape, and then they glue it down to the blacktop. After a while, that lifts up. So we decided to go with post-tension concrete. It actually comes with, I believe it is a 10-year warranty, and with Hinding Tennis, the company that's going to be doing this, we actually have to do a couple extra things that we're going to do, and I think it gets us a 20-year guarantee on the pavement against manufacturer defects and workmanship.
Great. Thank you. Does any other council members have any questions for Mr. Caldwell? Councilor Evans?
Sorry, so I'm not clear on that. If you could clarify a little further. So that means the hockey deck is on hold and it's being built as a tennis court instead? Did I misunderstand that?
The deck hockey is on hold right now. We're hoping to actually see what we have. We're not going to have any money left over from this project here, but we're looking to see what we can actually do in-house, because the deck hockey side can be made out of bituminous concrete. which is blacktop, because the deck hockey side is going to be covered with an artificial floor covering, like a plastic tile. So if it does crack underneath it, the worst case scenario, we would have to either crack seal it or fill it, or just leave it. And the top surface anything that breaks is a tile, so it can be replaced. So deck hockey, I'm hoping that we're going to be able to team up with Public Works and do that in-house.
Okay, because I know there was a...
short either.
Right, there was a group of students and avid hockey players who came and advocated for the Park and Rec Commission, specifically for that hockey deck to be built, or deck hockey to be built. So I really hope that whatever we need to do to make sure that that happens, that we're doing that.
We are. We had it designed out, so we have the pickleball exactly where it should be, and we have all the room, and it's all graded off for the deck hockey side already. We're going to temporarily use it for some parking because we don't know how busy pickleball is going to be at first, but that we do plan on doing that. But like I said, we got to look at timelines. We got a lot of big projects coming up, and a lot of other things that the Parks and Department's going to be taking on.
As long as it's in the plan, as long as we have it in
It's
sight.
not forgotten.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Caldwell? Counselor Gamble?
I don't know if this is for you, Mr. Caldwell, but it's going to be hot the next few days, and I'm just getting is there a status update on the splash pad?
And Mr. Maniscalco, while you
So we
answer
have-
that question, could you also address cooling centers over the next few days, please?
Yeah, sure. So, so cooling centers are, no, we have at this point now basically secured the majority of the funding for the splash pad. We've got the allocation from the town has been put in place. We have a commitment from the Rotary Club for their portion. I'm not sure if you've put together an RFP or how that's going. I know there's some design work and stuff of that nature that's
We do
gotta
have our
happen
initial
first.
design that we submitted. We've also gone to a couple different parks and seen what works and what doesn't work. One thing that I found that was interesting was, you wouldn't think it, but we went to one park and there was 3 or 4 garbage cans around and they were overflowing full. We went to another one and they had almost 13 at it, and that would actually seem to be working, but I think it generates an awful lot of trash. But the other thing that we noticed is that a lot of people have birthday parties at them it seems to be a popular birthday spot. So I think we got to keep a lot of different things in mind, and hopefully we can learn from other communities what works, what doesn't work, what works off the edge of the splash pad. I think you have to have some type of an artificial surface off the edge of it, otherwise you get a muddy surface. You can't just transition into lawn. We end up with a mud surface, and then the mud carries into the splash pad itself.
Fence?
And then in terms of heat and cooling, our library typically serves as a cooling center throughout the daytime hours for the most part. If we do end up seeing something extreme, like very seriously extreme, we would probably open up the community center in overnight hours if we got to that point. But at this point, right now, we haven't done anything like that. Additionally, our community center throughout the day serves as a cooling location as well.
Mr. Maniscalco, could you please announce the phone number to Human Services if anyone needs assistance with the heat and/or if they don't have air conditioning, or where they can gather information from, please?
So my understanding is if you need to find a location and cool off, you can call 211. That's statewide. They should have that information available to them. I'm trying to see if I could find the actual number for Human Services.
860-648-6361.
Well, it's not
Is
fair
that
if you've got it memorized.
Is that it? I think that's it. Don't quiz me.
Yeah, we could quote her on it. Give me 1 second.
Just a shameless plug while we're up here. EMP is open for daily passes.
Your microphone's not on. There you go.
So the phone number for Human Services is 860-648-6361. So you're good.
I'm good. I'm
And
right
that's
on.
why you're the
There you
mayor.
go.
There you go.
So that's going to cover the heat. And what about a fence around the splash pad or about the playground area? I know I had spoke to you about that last year or 2 years ago.
Most of the parks that we've gone to have no fence, but I think everything is relevant on where it's placed and its proximity to the road and to the parking lot. I think where we're looking to put ours, I think we're going to have some type of barrier between the splash pad itself and the road, and partially in the parking lot. I think to fence it in is a little difficult because the area doesn't really isn't really conducive to a fence, but it's something that we can look at, of course.
And the fence that's presently there, which stops balls from rolling down to Nevers Road, has been vandalized, so, of which we've seen, so.
Yes, it has. The Jacobs View, the fence there is actually a residential style fence. That's what was donated, and it hasn't held up very well, so that's something that we're going to have to look to replace also.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Caldwell.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. No other questions for the town manager? Okay, moving on to public input on any of the items on the agenda. Public input shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by the mayor, the speaker shall approach the lectern and give their name and address. Speaker shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speaker may address the council on any item on the agenda. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council on any items on the agenda? Anyone from the public like to speak to the council on any items on the agenda? And going for a third time, anyone from the public like to speak to the council members concerning any items on the agenda? Not seeing any. Thank you. Moving on, we will now go into executive session. So can I have a motion to go into an executive session? We will be right back out after that. I don't need a motion to go into executive session. I do? I need a motion. Steve, go ahead.
Didn't we already move for the executive session?
We've already moved it
to
up into
discuss-
the agenda, so why do we have to go into a motion to go into executive session? We already did it. Oh, just to go? Okay, we need a motion just to go, Steve.
Understood. So, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move that we go into executive session to discuss a personnel issue, the agreement between the town of South Windsor and local 1303-466 of Council 4, FSCME, as well as AFL-CIO, pollution control employees. I'd like to invite the town manager, Michael Maniscalco, the assistant town manager, Ms. Perry, and the assistant town manager, Mr. Roberts. And I'm not sure if we have any other appropriate
Do we need our
personnel
town
that's deemed
attorney in there?
necessary for this.
No, okay. That's it. Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. We'll be right back. Yep.
Phil, can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
I'd like to come back to the meeting, the regular meeting, the town council meeting. We are now on item number 8, adoption of previous meetings. Councilor Evans.
Adoption of minutes of previous meetings. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the regular town council meeting of July 5th, 2022. And be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the special work session meeting of July 5, 2022.
Is there a second?
Do we have to split?
And yes.
Do we need to split those?
I think we can do both because we're all here that evening for both, I believe. Whoever was, we can split them if you feel like splitting them.
No, I thought that.
But I think if anyone was here for the work session, they may have been here for the regular meeting. You were at neither, so that's okay. So we have a second. So is there any deletions, additions, corrections, changes? Okay, Councilor Paterna. Okay?
No, it's just gonna vote.
Okay, all those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? And any abstention?
Abstain.
Can we get a roll call, please?
Counselor Evans?
Yes.
I'm sorry, and this is on the first meeting of the, it's the town council. They should have been reversed. The work session should have came first because that was held at 6 p.m. Just to point that out on the agenda, they should have been reversed. So right now we're voting on the regular town council meetings of July 5th.
I think we,
Counselor Evans?
yes.
Counselor Kabowski?
Yes.
Counselor Lopez?
Yes.
Counselor Paterna?
Yes.
Mayor Pendleton?
Yes,
Deputy Mayor King?
it's not here.
Counselor Kozakowski? Counselor Lidecker? Counselor Gamble?
Abstain.
5 yeses, 1 abstention.
Thank you. And now we'll be voting on the special work session. If you could take a roll call on that, please.
Counselor Evans?
Yes.
Counselor Kabowski?
Yes.
Counselor Lopez?
Yes.
Counselor Paterna?
Yes.
Mayor Pendleton?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor King?
Yes.
Oh, there he is.
Man, that 7 minutes was quick.
Counselor Kozakowski, Counselor Lidecker, and Counselor Gamble.
Abstain.
All
And if
right.
we could go back to that first vote, can we go back now that Deputy Mayor King is here to get his count on the regular meeting minutes? Count Deputy Mayor King. He's shaking his head yes. So he is a yes. So that would make them both 6 yeses and 1 abstention for each.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, it is now 8 o'clock. We have a public hearing. Please read the notice for the 8 o'clock public hearing.
To be published in the Journal Enquirer, July 8th, 2022, legal ad, Town of South Windsor. Notice is hereby given that the South Windsor Town Council has set Monday, July 18th, 2022 at 8 p.m. in the council chambers of the South Windsor Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Ave, South Windsor, Connecticut, as a time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on the appropriation of $413,000 of LoSiP funds to cover the costs associated with the replacement of the South Windsor Fire Headquarters roof. Dated at South Windsor, Connecticut, this 8th day of July 2022, attested to by Catherine Senerth, Executive Assistant.
Thank you, Catherine. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak at the public hearing that has just been notice read? Anyone would like to speak? The public hearing. For the 3rd time, anyone like to speak for the public hearing? Okay, so I close the public hearing. Not seeing anyone, I close the public hearing, although we do take a straw poll vote at the end. If all those in favor of the funding on the LoSiP funds, could you raise your hand in favor of yes? And if there's anyone out there that is not in favor of it, raise your hand, please. Thank you. And moving on. Now we're down to communications from the liaison officers and boards directly responsible to the council. Is there anyone that is a liaison to any boards and commissions that would like to make a report, please? Deputy Mayor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 2 things real quick. First, the inland wetlands meeting for the 20th has been canceled. And in regards to the WPCA, there is a special meeting that is going to be held in the town hall and the council chambers tomorrow, or actually, excuse me, July 20th at 7 p.m. And this is going to be discussing the odor control improvement, and as well as having the public comments on the result of the work session involving the odor control improvement.
I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor King, could you announce when that special meeting is again, please, for the WPCA on the odor control?
It is on Wednesday,
Wednesday?
July 20th. So this Wednesday, July 20th at 7 p.m. It'll be held in council chambers.
July 20th at 7 p.m. in the council chambers. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You're welcome.
Anyone else would like to make a report as liaisons to any boards and commissions? Councilor Kamaski, do you have anything? No? Okay. Moving on to reports from committees. Does anyone have any reports from any of the council committees that we have? Councilor Evans.
Thank you. I just want to report that the IT Board and Commission Video Committee, I don't know what else to call it, met with Mr. Scott Roberts as well, and we talked about a traveling system that could be set up for boards and commissions at various locations. It's a very cost-effective option. We're going to get a set that we can try out for this committee to kind of experiment with and try out and see how it would work. And this would be something that could be used by some boards and commissions, and we could look at like a balance of who we wanted to continue for the council chambers and what this might look like for those boards or commissions that wanted to use this other option. This would not be a live streaming option. It would be video recorded using the system during the meetings, and then the next day the IT department would upload it to our website or any other systems where it could be viewed. So the plan at this point is for that committee to meet again, or subcommittee to meet again, I suppose, and try the system out once the IT department has gotten all the parts to it to see how it might work And then we plan to come back to the council to let you know how that went, and what other options we might have for video recording for boards and commissions. I don't know if Councilor Lopez has anything else he wanted to add, or if there was
Do
questions.
we know how many boards and commissions don't meet within the town hall? Do we know that answer?
Off the top of my head.
That would justify a traveling recording?
So this would also be for like the sprinkle room. Some commissions or boards have asked to meet at Wapping. We are trying to think if there might be instances where like a board or commission might need to meet at a school. You know, right now the council chamber is set up obviously to record. We have 3 or 4 commissions that do meet here, but that requires a higher level of staffing in order to be able to do that. Also the same in the Madden room. That is now outfitted thanks to a grant and because of the resolution that we passed to be able to video record in there. That one can be streamed, but then again, you need the staffing as well. So this is an option that would not require having staff that would have to be available for that board or commission. Of course, there would be logistics of having to make sure that that kit was picked up ahead of time, was set up ahead of time, and delivered back to the town in order to be used by the next board or commission. So there are some logistical pieces to it as well that we have to figure out.
Okay. Councilor Lopez, do you have anything to add? No, good, okay. Does anyone else have any reports on any committees? I'd like to report that the Personnel Committee is meeting tomorrow at 11 to go over the applications for the town clerk's position, the clerk of the council's position. Sorry, Bonnie, not town clerk. The clerk of the council's position. And our town clerk is sitting here looking at me with the little side eye going on. I got you. Don't worry. You're good, honey. You're good. So it's the clerk of the council position. And also the capital projects, capital improvement is meeting on Wednesday. So we can hopefully find out where we are in the status of the 2021 projects and looking at the 21-22 projects and the status of those and wrapping things up before we start our budget for the 22-23 season. So that's where we stand with those. Does anyone else have any other reports? Councilor Gamble.
I would just like to wish you luck 3 times as a charm, hopefully, with the clerk of the council position.
For the what? Oh, clerk of the council. Thank you. Thank you. We're trying. Thank you. Okay. No other reports on any committees? Okay, moving on to the item number 11, the consent agenda, please. Get my glasses on. Councilor Evans, please.
Motion to approve item 11A1 as a first reading on the consent agenda.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Not hearing any? Any? Okay. Motion carries. Moving on to the second reading. That's also on the consent agenda, right? So that's good. Then we move on to C, miscellaneous, there is none. Moving on to 12, there is no unfinished business. Moving on to 13, resolution for Councilor Kabowski, please.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I believe we have 11B.
E1.
Oh, B1. There it is. Okay. Isn't that what you not read? Oh, no, you didn't. Who reads that? I'm sorry. Councilor King, Deputy Mayor King, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion to approve item 11B1 as a second reading on the consent agenda.
Is there a second? All those in
Second.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, not hearing any. The motion carries. Okay, so that's B1. Now we're on to C, and there was none. 12, unfinished business, there's nothing. Now item 13A. Councilor Kabowski, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 13A, resolution authorizing the appropriation of $413,000 of LoCIP funds to cover costs associated with the replacement of the South Windsor Fire Headquarters roof. Whereas the town council wishes to use $413,000 in LoCIP funds to pay for the replacement of the South Windsor Fire Headquarters roof, and whereas the required public hearing was held on Monday, July 18th, 2022, now therefore be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby authorizes the town manager to apply to the state of Connecticut Office of Policy and Management to use $413,000 in LoCIP funds to cover costs associated with the replacement of the fire headquarters roof.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Mr. Clay Majors, our facilities manager, was here. Mr. Maniscalco, do you want to give us just a rundown of this, please, and what's going on?
Yeah, I think Mr. Majors actually left at this point. So essentially what we're doing is we're transferring some, we're going to be using some funds that the town receives from the state, from the local capital improvement program, and essentially to replace the roof at fire headquarters.
Is there any other questions from the town manager concerning this? Okay, not hearing any or seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. Thank you. The motion carries. Moving on to 13B. Right, is that where I'm at? 13B. Okay. And that would be Councilor Lopez, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. B, resolution approving an agreement between the Town of South Windsor and Local 1303-466 of Council 4, AFS CME, AFL-CIO pollution control employees. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the proposed agreement between the Town of South Windsor and Local 1303-466 of Council 4, AFS CME, AFL-CIO pollution control employees for the period of July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2025.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Moving on to, thank you, Councilor Lopez. 13C, Councilor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution approving a refund of taxes to 4 South Windsor taxpayers. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves a refund of property taxes to 4 South Windsor taxpayers, the total of said refunds being $8,222.54, and as more fully described in attached Exhibit A.
Thank you, Councilor Gamble. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Any deletions, any removals, abstention? Discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Moving on to 13D, discussion on the plan for paving. Mr. Maniscalco and Mr. Vincent Stetson is not here. However, Mr. Jeffrey Doolittle is here to answer any of our questions if needed. I'm sure we have tons of them. So, if we could start, Mr. Maniscalco?
Yeah, thank you. Unfortunately, Mr. Stetson had some things come up that he wasn't able to be here tonight, so Mr. Doolittle is here to fill in. You know, I think it's probably at least 4 or 5 months ago, the Department of Public Works came out with the plan for paving and came to the town council and gave a public presentation. And I know Mr. Doolittle and Mr. Stetson have gone around and done a dog and pony show at a number of different committees, and it's also been online and shared through social media, and I know we've gotten a lot of good feedback from it. The one part of the plan that's not there is the actual resources and funding for actually implementing that plan to bring our roads up to a standard that I think the community expects and requires and would like to have moving forward. If you look back at the way that we have funded our roads historically, the community made a decision at some point to move to a bond-funded program where we were funding roads through borrowing. This plan, or the way that we're presenting this at this time, would kind of follow suit with that, the way that decision has been made. Right now, we're kind of running out of the current bond funds and getting the bonded projects done that have already been approved, so this would be that next set of bonded programs moving forward. I have heard some questions from people related to, you know, how could we not have to bond these projects like this, and could we move to a cash pay-as-you-go basis? We could certainly look at doing something like that, but that I think in order to keep our taxes reasonably low, we would need to do that over a longer period of time and include funding in our capital plan for road repair and maintenance to a larger and larger magnitude on an annual basis. So really, from a standpoint where we are now, I think we need to probably move forward with some type of resources so that way the town can continue to maintain and upgrade its road conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Would you like to add to that, Mr. Doolittle, before we move on to any of our questions?
The only thing I would add is, as the town manager said, as Mr. Stetson has said in the past, we feel it's imperative that we get funding so we can continue to maintain our roads. If we delay funding any road repairs, obviously they will deteriorate, number one. Even a year or two causes deterioration in our roads, and the costs are going up significantly. So now is the time to act on this, we feel.
Thank you, Mr. Doolittle. Could you move that microphone back up onto the...
Yes.
There you go. That's for you tall people. Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Maniscalco or Mr. Doolittle? Councilor Paterno.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Doolittle, thank you very much for the information. And so far, what I see is we're including sidewalks a decent amount wherever we can. I think that's a plus for this kind of a plan, because we're doing roads without sidewalks, as a lot of neighborhoods have been requesting that, as you know.
Yes.
The other question is, and this may be for Mr. Maniscalco, do we know yet what type of impact this kind of borrowing will have in terms of taxes for residents in the at least near future? And I agree with you that trying to do it through the budget would be a much greater tax impact, so this is still a better way to do it.
Yeah, so let me see if I can look it up real quick while I've got you, while we're talking here. The one thing I think to think about when we're looking at the way this project is going to go is we're going to bond it over a longer period of time. So, you know, we're looking for a larger dollar amount for this approval, with the intent that it's not all going to be issued at one moment in time. It's going to be multiple years out. This should probably be at least 6 years, I would think, for construction-wise. I'm trying to look here. According to our finance director, on a home, typically I think we use a home value of about $250,000. It looks like it'll be in 2024. It would be $8.75
Per year, Mr. Maniscalco, correct?
per year, and based on the issuance that we would be looking at, it would be $8.75. Then in 2025, it looks like it would be $28. 2026. Oh, I'm sorry. I take that back. It looks like an average monthly cost of $2.19, no matter which year it is. So it'll be an average monthly cost of $2.19 for the whole project.
So roughly $24 a year?
All right.
$25 a year?
Yeah, about $25 a year.
$25 a year?
What you're saying is this $30 million, and Mr. Doolittle, if you can jump in here too, that because we do long-term borrowing, we're looking at a very small amount in terms of tax increases for residents. This $24 a year gets you $30 million and 6 years of not just maintaining, but repaving roads.
This is a reconstruction of our
Right? Yes.
one of our largest assets in the
Right.
community, in all honesty.
Right. And how many miles of roads do we have in town?
We have about 142 miles of road,
Yeah.
round numbers.
So spaced out over 6 years, if you're looking at $24 per year per resident or household, you're looking at a pretty impressive project that can get a lot of work done over 6 years for a very small amount of investment based on each property owner. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I think if you look at the Pavement for Progress plan, you look at the condition of the roads in our community, and they've really fallen behind a bit because we haven't been paying as close attention as we really need to. So, you know, this plan and the way that we're looking to fund this is to really give the community's largest asset a big shot in the arm and get us back in a place where we need to be, that we can then, from a stable position financially, maintain that condition of our roads moving forward.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. So, Mr. Doolittle, I know you have been involved in sidewalk and grants for sidewalks from the state for a long time. Would this kind of a bond issue put us in better standing with the state as far as obtaining more grant funds for sidewalks?
It could.
Yeah.
If we're strategic about it. So when you obviously apply for grants for the state, they are competitive.
Right.
So you need to make a case for your sidewalks. So if we could go one of two ways. We could put in the priority sidewalks using the funding we have.
Right.
There's a process for that. Or we could put in kind of some connecting sidewalks that we feel are good connectors, and maybe leave a few priority sidewalks for potential grant funding from the state, and we've already got kind of connections set up to use those when they get put in. Obviously, there's no guarantee with state funding, but we can look at both strategies, so to speak, and decide which one we think would be more favorable.
Right, and what I'm wondering is that, do we look better to the state in terms of giving us a grant if we show the commitment we've made to maintaining and repaving roads over 6 years? Does that put us in a better position?
Not necessarily. They look at more the need for the project, the demand for the project, the users of the project.
Okay.
They don't look at what you've done in the past in terms of how you've maintained things. They look at how you're going to use the grant you're going to get from them.
I'm just looking for another edge to get more grant money, but thank you. Appreciate it.
Always, I do too. Counselor Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Mr. Doolittle, for the explanation. My memory might be going a little bit, but I always thought the number that we were throwing around was 30 million. And so maybe I've missed it somewhere along the way, but now the number's 35 and change. So I'm still a proponent of this project. I think it's a great way to fund it. I just don't remember the $5 million.
The extra $5 million, I believe, is associated with the sidewalks.
Okay. Well, originally I thought the sidewalks were always part of the project to some extent. So that was one of my questions. How that.
Well, if you remember, the sidewalks were actually not included in the paving progress plan. The paving for progress plan strictly looked at roads. So we did add in sidewalks because of the need for sidewalks, the demand for sidewalks. We felt it was important to put in some money for those.
All right, thank you. And then I was feverishly looking for something that I had read earlier, saying something to the effect that we need to do this now before the cost of everything goes up. Is that true? Because I don't understand how that would actually work, because we're just bonding the money, getting the money now for it, but we won't actually be using it for 5, 10, 20 years out. Is that?
Well, I think it's more associated with, like, we need to get the project going and the cost of materials and things of that nature. So that's the mindset behind that.
Okay, so
kind
it's
of
not
statement.
specifically
It's
tied
not
to it.
related to the financing piece of it, yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks. Thank you.
Counselor Kabowski or Deputy Mayor King, do you have any questions for either the town manager or Mr. Doolittle?
No.
Deputy Mayor King?
Good to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the counselors? Not seeing any. I have a few. First and foremost, before we start this, I'd like to say that our town staff has worked very diligently to figure out a game plan to take care of our roads in town, to look at our roads. When you presented this to capital improvement and I said, well, let's give you the 30 million or 40 million or whatever it's going to take to get all the roads done, you presented a wonderful paving for project between you and Mr. Stetson, working on that, figuring it out, explaining it, the whole game plan on how it should be done, what roads should be done, when the roads will be done, when is it, as Mr. Maniscalco just said, it's going to take time to get the money, the bonding. It's going to take time for you to write up the RFPs for whatever you need to do. All of that takes time. It's not a rushed process. And I want to compliment the staff for bringing this forward to the council. We don't sit and look at roads, what roads we need. We drive on the roads, but we don't know what roads need to be done. We can recommend some. And listening to our requests for sidewalks also, I appreciate the town staff listening to that too. But really, and I will say this again, our town staff are the experts in their fields. We are not. So we appreciate you and appreciate what you've brought forward to us for the residents of our community. And on the financial piece of things, I'd like to say, by getting the AAA rating, Mr. Maniscalco, that you work so hard to do, is going to help us with this bonding, to help with these roads, and to figure out the financial impact. And if I could address that for just 1 second, the financial impact to get our roads done, we have really two ways to look at it, and I want to break it down for our residents to understand. One of the ways is for bonding. We go out there and, like a home equity line of credit, we go out there and we borrow the money, and if we need to use the money, we use the money and we pay back on that with the interest and we pay it back. Or we can take one lump sum out of our savings account, our home savings account, to do something, and now we're without that money and we're going to have to pay all that back. So we have a 1-year impact on taxpayers, or we spread that out over many years, and it's a smaller amount that is impacting them in that 1 year. It's a smaller amount stretched out over a longer period. Correct, Mr. Maniscalco?
Correct. I mean, it's the same dollar amount in total, but it's a smaller amount that you have to pay annually every year. So it's less of an impact.
So it's less impact to the citizens financially by bonding it. So that's the best way to look at it. The other thing that I'd like to address is there's many statements out there that have been read and or have been heard or made that we're going to go out, we're going to get $30 million, but there's no way that we're going to be able to keep track of that. The money is going to come into the town, and we're going to spend the money on whatever we want to spend the money on, because that's the type of council we are, or that's what our town staff would like to do. I'd like to make this very clear this evening that whatever money gets issued for any projects within our community, that money is very well traceable, trackable within whatever projects the town staff is working on, correct?
Well, actually, I'd take that a step further, Madam Mayor, because the resolution that you're considering tonight actually specifically says it's for road construction and repaving and everything else. If town staff were to use those funds for, let's just say, to buy new chairs for this room, for example, that would actually be considered illegal, and individuals could get in serious problems as a result of that. So when bonding is occurring and using funds from that is very specifically related to a very specific activity that is outlined in the resolution that you would be approving tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. The other item that I'd like to mention about the sidewalks, and I don't believe that it's in this plan or this project, but for Clark Street, it's been brought out there for Clark Street to have sidewalks on it because it is a very curvy up or down roller coaster type of a ride. But seeing how Clark Street does connect many of the residential communities that are on Pleasant Valley Road, off of Pleasant Valley Road, the Quarry Brook Drive, and then many of the condos or the townhouses, if Clark Street could connect, from Pleasant Valley over to Town Center, if folks could walk Clark Street to get to Town Center, and maybe a future thought project on that, or whatever you have to say, Mr. Dugal. Go ahead.
That's a possibility. We'd have to explore that with the council and the residents of Clark Street and the town as a whole. And if there was enough interest and support for that, we could certainly pursue that.
Okay, thank you. Let's see if I have any more. And the roads that are being done in this project have already been identified by our community, by our staff, brought forward to us at the last meeting, and we have a list of the roads that are being done based off of the priority of the needs of that road in the shape that they're presently in, correct?
Yes.
So along the way, we're not going to say, oh, well, we won't do the road on that list, but we'll just go and do this road. No, we're going to maintain the list, stay on the list of the roads that were presented to us?
We are going to do our best. There are unknown circumstances that show up. Mm-hmm. We could have a major development on a road. We could have some kind of a pipe collapse on a road.
I was just
happened
going to say that.
before,
yeah.
And then we have to address that. So we like to have some flexibility to address unforeseen issues.
But 99.9% of the time, you're going to stick to that list that you sent to us unless there was an unforeseen incident that needed to be changed up.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to keep going here with all my questions. Thank you. Let's see. And this evening, I'd just like to also recognize that we have the 3 actually the four folks that are, we're missing one, but we have the four folks that are here concerning this whole referendum and resolution and everything, and that would be our town clerk, Ms. Bonnie Armstrong, Mr. Jeff Doolittle, our town manager, Mr. Maniscalco, our own town attorney, Mr. Rich Corella, and our bond counsel, which was Dave Panico, was not here, but Bonnie has worked with him intently on the referendum wording. So all the experts are here to take care of this and write this up completely. So I want to thank everyone involved in getting this moving forward. The other question that I have, and the last question is, this is a great game plan. I like this game plan because I like the least amount of financial impact on our taxpayers in a yearly basis. When we complete these, how many roads did you have? Maybe 20, 25 roads?
Yes, I don't have an exact.
Something like that. I didn't exactly count, something like that. So once those are completed, I'm asking the town manager and maybe your department, Mr. Stetson, to come up with a game plan. How are we going to move forward after this bonding is approved and we go forward with these roads and we get these roads done? We still have other roads in town that are going to be done. We've asked the fire department, they present their fire truck replacement plan. The police department has their vehicle replacement plan. What is our town replacement plan on roads? Do we have one set up, and do we know which direction we're going for this in the future? Once we do this bonding, what's going to happen next with the next 25 roads or the next, do you know what I mean? Do we have a plan?
Yes, so we have a plan. The Paving for Progress is an example of the current plan. So we will update that plan as we do these roads. We typically update it annually or every other year at the very least. We'll update it and keep it up to date, and we'll go forward. The goal is to maintain our roads at a certain level of condition. You know, in terms of the pavement condition index, we look to be about an 82 to 83 at least. So we'll look at all our roads, and the program, what it does is it compiles all the roads together and it kind of averages everything together. So we'll see where the roads are. And if we see roads that are not on this list start to deteriorate, obviously they will move to the top of the next list. So we'll update the list. We'll have another list as we go forward. Hopefully it shouldn't be another $30 million. It should be much less expensive, but there will be a cost to continue to maintain the roads going forward.
I see. And so, well, that's good. I'm glad there is a game plan on how to maintain, how to get to the new roads and then to maintain what we presently had and or make them new once again. That's great that the staff is looking at that in a game plan down the way. So Mr. Maniscalco, with the bonding and the fund, the bonding that we would receive with this, when would this be paid off? Do we know?
Let me see, I got dates here. I think we would probably issue 20 or 30-year bonds. I'm not quite sure at this time. I mean, it's going to be based upon when we would, what the market looks like and everything else. So, I mean, if your last issuance is going to be in 2028, we would do another, about 2048 would be the final payments on that if it was 20, and 2058 if it was 30. So
before that's even paid off, and if we need to do another 20 roads, would you come back for another referendum for roads, or would you maintain what we presently have in-house and be able to do that, or put that on CIP, or how would you plan on it?
I think that's a question for the council, actually, to consider in the capital committee, to consider moving forward, because I think if it's decided that the community wants to do a pay-as-you-go plan rather than a financing plan, we need to start setting money aside in capital so that way we could address some of the road challenges that we have moving forward. If everybody's okay with continuing to finance and kind of spread out the payment over time, then I think we would, probably looking at another referendum, I don't know, maybe 10 years down the road, maybe even more.
Okay. So that's ways down the road. All right, thank you. Thank you for addressing all my questions and concerns. We can move on, I suppose, with all this now. Does anyone else have any other questions in the discussion item? Not hearing any. Thank you, Mr. Doolittle.
Thank you.
And thank Mr. Stetson for us, please.
I will.
And we missed him. And now moving on, Mr. Maniscalco, you have no, okay. Moving on to item 13E. Counselor Evans, please.
13E, resolution requesting the town council to approve a referendum date of November 8th, 2022 for the planning, design, construction, and/or replacement of townwide road paving, sidewalks, and drainage improvements, and authorizing the issuance of $35,470,000 bonds to the town to meet said appropriation and pending the issuance thereof of the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. Whereas it is the desire of the town council to bring the referendum question forward to the South Windsor community on November 8, 2022, now therefore be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves a referendum date of November 8, 2022, with polling time of 6:00 a.m. to 8:00 p.m.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Counselor Gamble.
So now I know what the difference was between the two agendas. Sorry, Madam Mayor. The pink agenda did not have any of that referendum stuff in it. So I was going to ask questions about, like, just making sure that everybody understands that we're not approving $35 million. We're approving a date for the referendum. So now I know. Thank you.
You good?
I'm good.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion on this? We got you up to speed with the revised agenda. There you go. That's okay. Deputy Mayor King, Councilor Kubaski? No discussion?
Good.
We're all good? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 13F. Oh, that's myself. Okay. And that is resolution appropriating $35,470,000 for the planning, design, construction, and/or replacement of townwide road paving, sidewalks, and drainage improvements, and authorizing the issuance of $35,470,000 bonds of the town to meet said appropriations, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose, and more fully described on attached Exhibit B. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Moving on to 13G. Deputy Mayor King, please.
Madam Mayor, I don't believe that I have the updated. You said 13G.
Oh, you don't have the yellow
Yes.
copy. I'm sorry. He doesn't have the
No,
yellow
that's
copy.
fine.
Okay. Councilor Paterna. Sorry, Deputy Mayor King. Councilor Paterna.
Not at all.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a resolution approving a ballot question for referendum of town electors. Be it resolved that the resolution entitled Resolution Appropriating $35,470,000 for the planning, design, construction, and/or replacement of townwide road paving, sidewalks, and drainage improvements, and authorizing the issuance of $35,470,000 bonds of the town to meet such appropriation, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. Heretofore, at this meeting adopted, be submitted to the town electors for approval or disapproval at a referendum to be held in conjunction with the general election on Tuesday, November 8th, 2022, and that the warning of said referendum state the question to be voted upon as follows. Shall the resolution approving an appropriation and bond authorization in the amount of $35,470,000 for the planning, design, construction, and/or replacement of townwide road, paving, sidewalks, and drainage improvements adopted by the Town Council on July 18th, 2022 be approved? There's one more. The ballot label for said question will read as follows. Shall the resolution appropriating the authorizing bonds in the amount of $35,470,000 for the planning, design, construction, and/or replacement of townwide road paving, sidewalks, and drainage improvements be approved? Yes or no?
Thank you. I'm sorry. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Councilor Kubaski, you voted on that just now, did you not?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I didn't hear you. Okay. And moving on to item 13H, again, Councilor Paterna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I read this, I just want to clear up that and I'd like to refer to the town attorney on this, but this resolution authorizing the town clerk is how the wording should be stated, to draft explanatory text.
Instead
And
of
the
the
town clerk
attorney.
will certainly work with the town attorney. Am I right, Mr. Carrillo?
That's correct. The statute requires the explanatory text to be drafted by the town clerk and approved by the town attorney. So your motion should read that the council authorizes the town clerk to prepare it.
All right, thank you.
May
Thank
I
you.
ask a question concerning? No, go ahead, I'll discuss it after. Go
All
ahead.
right. So this is a resolution authorizing the town clerk to draft explanatory text. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby authorizes the town clerk to draft explanatory text pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 9-369BA, for the upcoming referendum regarding the planning, design, construction, and/or replacement of townwide road paving, sidewalks, and drainage improvements, and authorizing the issuance of $35,470,000 bonds of the town to meet such appropriation, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose.
Is there a second? Any questions? I do. Miss Bonnie? Miss Bonnie? Miss Armstrong, Town Clerk, could you come to the, thank you. And the microphone just needs to be turned on. There we go, thank you. So far we have Mr. Maniscalco, we have Mr. Stetson, and Mr. Doolittle addressing the plan of paving. And then we have our town attorney who has addressed the referendum question. Is that correct, Mr. Town Attorney?
That's correct.
Okay. And now we have our town clerk, Ms. Bonnie Armstrong, who can address the draft explanatory text. And is this what you have been working on with this?
Well,
With the town attorney?
So the way it works is we'll work together to put the explanatory text together. And then that will be actually reviewed by me and then also by the SEEC, the State Elections Enforcement Commission, has a staff person there who will review it with us, and we'll get their blessing on it, and then we'll publish it accordingly.
Okay. And Mr. Panico is the part of the bond, he's the bond counsel attorney, right? He's the one that writes up the special bonding wording for this. And I know you work with, Ms. Armstrong, you work with Mr. Panico, is that correct?
No,
No.
that would be me.
That you work with him?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand. Everybody in explanatory text will definitely go through you and our town attorney for it to be printed and be correct out there for all our taxpayers to be able to read, right?
Yes, yeah. It's through the town clerk's office that the explanatory text gets disseminated and published.
Okay.
But it's through my office and through the SEEC where the language of it actually gets prepared.
Okay. And we'll have that explanatory text available on our website and in various places before the election.
Our thought was to actually get it on the website and then to also distribute it via mail to every household in town. So that way they'll get a trifold in their mailbox.
There's also some statutory requirements about posting it on election day. There's a number of posters that have to be prepared and placed appropriately. So we'll have all that in line up for November 8th.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Ms. Armstrong. Please.
Just so you know, my role is, once this passes, it's my role to notify the Secretary of State's office that the ballot question will be on the ballot as a local question. It always comes after, when you have a state election. Municipal and local questions, referendum questions come after the state questions.
Right.
I believe there may be 2 state questions on the ballot in November, which means this would then be the third question.
The third question. And it's not going to be on the back of the ballot if someone does absentee ballot like last time where there was questions on the back or voting on the back? Or people need to know to flip it over or something?
But
Okay.
the ballot is actually drafted by the Secretary of State's office for the state election.
I see. Okay. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this, Ms. Armstrong?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much for
Thank
being here
you.
this evening. and working on this. We appreciate you. Any other just questions, comments?
One
Mr.
quick
Counselor
question.
Gamble?
So, Attorney Corella, you said you meet with the SEEC on this ballot. Did you already meet with them and get it approved by them, or are you waiting for our vote to then meet with them to make sure that it meets all the regulatory
The ballot,
standards?
the draft explanatory text is what gets approved by them. As Bonnie just said, the ballot question you just approved.
I meant the explanatory. Well,
The ex-
what did you meet with the SEE?
I'm sorry.
What did you meet with the SEEC?
I haven't met with them. What we typically do is prepare the explanatory text language. So let me back up a step. I gave Mike a handout from the SEC that I think he included in your packages that talks about this period of time that starts today. With your vote to send this to referendum, there becomes a period of time where public officials and the use of public funds can't be used to advocate for a position for or against the ballot question. And so any dissemination of communications about the referendum need to meet certain statutory criteria. They are very limited in terms of what you can say and cannot say. So one of the things you can do is have the town clerk, myself, work together to put together explanatory materials that can be used to describe what the purposes of this referendum are, what this is going to be try to accomplish. Anything that we draft in terms of explanatory text needs to be neutral. It can't advocate for one position or the other. And so in order to confirm that we're not advocating, we always run it by the State Election Enforcement Commission and get their blessing on the language itself. There's a fellow there, his name is Josh Foley. He's been doing this for years. We've worked with him a ton of times before. And when we bring it up to him, he reviews it. He gives us some comments back, change a few words here or there. And then we ultimately come to, an agreement on what the language can be. And we have that in our back pocket so that we're not going to be facing an SEC investigation as to why we advocated one way or the other. And so it's kind of like making sure that we do it the right way.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I'm glad you're good, because I'm glad you discussed it with the town attorney, because actually, Mr. Town Attorney, could you please explain to the council members the document that is in their packet that gives us the guidelines on what we can and cannot do moving forward with concerning this referendum? As you just said, if you could just go over that very briefly for us. And for all of us, highly recommended that we read that. We do have some new counselors that haven't dealt with referendums before.
Sure. Oops, yeah. So the State Election Enforcement Commission is the agency that regulates the use of public funds for the advocacy of positions in a referendum, and there's a prohibition, there's a state prohibition on using public funds and communicating an advocacy position for or against a referendum question. And they've given a list, which we gave out to you, of kind of do's and don'ts, and what you can and what you can't do, and what you can and what you cannot say. It really comes down to not advocating a position for it. That prohibition on communication starts today. As soon as you voted just now to set the date for a referendum, any communications that you have can't advocate for a position one way or the other by using public funds. Individually, you're free to write a letter to the editor. You can have a public position on how you feel about this, but you can't use public funds to advocate that position. You can use your private funds, like I said, and that's laid out in this handout as well. That's it at a high level. The language of the explanatory text is allowed. The use of the town's website is allowed, as long as it's part of the explanatory text. There's some nuances there. I heard a lot tonight, I think appropriately so, of the importance of doing this. And if this doesn't pass, our town roads will continue to degrade, and the importance of it, the kind of the dire nature in some circumstances of it, is deemed to be advocacy. So you have to be careful about saying, if we don't get this passed, our roads are going to deteriorate. That would be deemed advocacy, so you want to avoid those types of statements. And that's all laid out for you in the handout.
Okay. Thank you for that. Councilor Paterno, do you have any questions?
No,
comments? Any other questions, comments, or concerns? We all have a clear understanding of our document and reread that multiple times so we know where we stand and we don't do any violation of that. Thank you. So all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Thank you. And then item 14 is passage of ordinance. Thank you, Ms. Armstrong, for coming this evening, and Mr. Doolittle. We appreciate you. Passage of ordinance, we have none. And item 15 is public input on any matter. Public input on any matter shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by the mayor, the speaker shall approach the lectern and give their name and address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speaker may address the council on any item. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the town council on any item? Anyone from the public? Good evening, Ms. Delnicki.
Good evening. At the last meeting, I spoke about a town attorney's opinion stating that it's the mayor's discretion on what goes on the agenda. At that time, I stated it was just an opinion, not a rule. Several years back, there was an opinion by a town attorney regarding a piece of property that the town deemed as blight. At that time, the attorney's opinion was that the town could not step in on that property to remove the blight. A few years later, another town attorney had a different opinion and said the town can go on that property to clean up the blight. That opinion was regarding 460 Miller. And look where we are today. The town of South Windsor is now defending a lawsuit. Please remember, opinions are just that, opinions, not a rule. So what does the current town attorney think about the previous town attorney's opinion regarding that it's the mayor's discretion on what goes on the agenda? Does he have the same opinion? Look where we are again with 460 Miller. We can be in the same position once again. At this time, I'm submitting a FOIA request for the July 11th council agenda setting meeting, since appointments from that minority party were submitted, then pulled. At the last meeting, I stated you preach equity, but you don't live by it. I also asked at the last meeting, am I being discriminated against because I'm a Republican, a woman, or both? The question should never be who is right, but what is right. Treating residents that you don't agree with the way you do is reprehensible. Thank you, and have a good August recess.
Thank you, Ms. Dolnicki, for coming to speak. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the council on any matter? Anyone from the public? Anyone from the public? Not seeing any? Moving on to item 16, communications from the council. Is there any attorney? Oh, there you go. Andrew Paterno.
I got a promotion.
Attorney.
I'm
How
an
did
attorney
that happen?
now.
Now you're an attorney. Sorry. Councilor Paterno. They go together.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to announce that the Park and Rec Facility Planning Committee is meeting on Monday, July 25th. We're making some progress. We're looking at 3 sites. The Colliers Group has come in and presented some conceptual ideas. There are no plans in place yet, but at least some concepts about how things might fit on each parcel in town. And we're moving on from there.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Paterno. Councilor Evans?
Thank you. I just wanted to express my gratitude to those who have stepped up to serve on the Social Justice and Racial Equity Commission. I'm really excited that we now will have enough people to get those meetings started. So my ask is that we get that started hopefully within the next month or so, and really get that rolling. And hopefully in the meantime, we'll see some other names come forward so that we can have a full commission in the fall. So thank you. Looking forward to that.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. Any other comments from the council? Any other communications? Not hearing any or seeing any? Now we can move on. We had our executive session. Moving on to adjournment, please. Motion to adjourn?
We adjourn.
Aye, we didn't vote yet. What are you doing? Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Enjoy your summers. Enjoy your summer, South Windsor. Thank you.